Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another meeting of the Cascade Speakeasy Group, where the theme tonight is It's Never Too Late. Welcome. I'm going to pass it over to Rob to lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance. Rob?
Thank you, Madam President. If everyone would please mute themselves, focus on my screen, and repeat along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Back to you, Madam President.
Myself? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Rob, our Sergeant at Arms. I have the esteemed privilege of introducing our Toastmaster this evening, who's going to be making our opening remarks, call for the joke of the day. Hope somebody has a good joke. Review any program changes and introduce our guest. Christina is our Toastmaster for today.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting. It is, as Barbara said, my pleasure to introduce our speaker this evening, as well as members of the evaluation team and our table topics master. First of all, I'd like to very much welcome Kathy Simons, who's joining us, who will be our club visitor representing the district tonight. Kathy, would you like to say a few words?
I would. Well, thank you, fellow Toastmasters. And my name is Kathy Simons, and I am actually in Phoenix, Arizona. Yes, it's warm here, warmer than where you're at, and there's sun. So that's great. Let me know if my audio doesn't come through very well, because if it doesn't, I might just stop my video and join in with just the auditory. But anyway, it looks like I'm doing good according to Eric. So great, thank you. And traveling has been really fun. We left Yakima November 14th, and we've been on the road since. First time ever to do sort of like the snowbird thing. But I've never wanted to be a snowbird because I have grandkids and I don't want to be away from them that long. So I told my husband 3 months is all I want to do. And we're coming up on 3 months. So even though it is cold in Yakima and snowy, probably like where you are at, I am looking forward to being home. And I'm thankful to be with you guys tonight to see what your club does and what you're doing to survive all the challenges that we have of Toastmasters. So thank you, Christina, for the introduction.
Thank you for joining us. I would like to remind everyone to please mute your phones. And while you are not speaking, please mute your microphone as well. Is there a joke of the evening? Ooh, Eric has one for us.
I have one, but I will wait till the end to make sure we get through the whole thing. Fabiola, are you prepared to time or? Okay, so that's another program change.
Not a change. We have everyone accounted for then. Steve, thank you for being willing to step in. Fabiola, we are so pleased to have you joining us tonight. It's been a while since we've seen you. And we understand congratulations are in store. For you.
In terms of?
Uh-oh.
What have you heard?
I heard that you have a new job.
Yes. Well, I have two exciting news to share this evening. I do have a new job and I get to start it tomorrow. It's my first day. I have accepted the position as executive director to the Washington Apple Education Foundation. And I'm so excited about that. And number two is I became a grandmother last week. I have a baby boy in the family and I'm so excited. That's what I wanted to know. Which of the two have you heard?
The first one, congratulations on both. Very exciting. Seriously, wait till the end for the joke? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Apparently he's serious about that. We will do the joke at the end. Perhaps then, if Barbara, you could ask for the joke of the day, because I don't come back onto the agenda at the end of the meeting. So if you would do that, that would be great. Let's move on then. I would like to, at this point, introduce our general evaluator for the evening to tell us what she will be doing, Kathleen McNulty. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I will definitely make sure we do the joke, because whatever joke we do here, I take to my Rotary Club the next morning. They really liked last week's. I don't know who it was. Was it you, Eric? It was a very short one. They enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to stealing another one tonight. Before that, though, I will do my job as general evaluator. In that role, I am to evaluate the meeting from stem to stern, looking for all of the fantastic things that will happen during our meeting, both in how it's organized, how prepared people are, and how well we do. I'll be looking for anything we might improve on, and I'll be sharing that with the group at the end. I have the pleasure of a very strong team behind me. I would not be able to do this. I would like to introduce them now, and each of them will tell you a little bit about their role. May I introduce our evaluator of Lloyd's speech, Vicki Chatterton.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. This evening, I will be evaluating Lloyd's speech, which is the Understanding Your Communication Style, which is in level 2. And this is his latest path of motivational strategies. Now, this is the 6th time that he has presented this in to our groups, whether it be this Toastmasters Club or various other ones. At this point, he's going to give a speech that is 5 to 7 minutes with this as a rough outline. But as you will see, when you're a seasoned Toastmaster, you can change things up and it comes out just the way you want. So I look forward to Lloyd's speech. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator. We're also joined tonight by Fabiola Barbosa, who is the bearer of good news and also is our timer tonight. Fabiola, explain your role to us, please.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, I will be timing. I will be timing both our table topics, our speeches, the speaker, Lloyd, his 5 to 7 minute speech, and then also evaluation. And our table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. And when you have reached 1 minute, I will hold up my green Rubik's Cube. When you are at 1.5 minutes, I will turn it to the yellow. And when you are at red, I will turn it to, I'll turn it to red when you're at 2 minutes. For the speech that Lloyd will be presenting, at 5 minutes, I will once again present the green side. At 6 minutes, the yellow. And at 7 minutes, the red. When we do evaluations, you have 2 to 3 minutes to present that. And at 2 minutes, we will have the green. At 2.5, we will have the yellow. And then at 3 minutes, we will have the red. At the end of this evening, I will then provide a report as far as everyone's overall time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Timer. Next, I'd like to introduce our grammarian, Pat Whitfield, is serving in that role tonight. Welcome, Pat.
Yes, thank you very much. As you know, the grammarian is the person who watches your use of the English language, the elegance with which you conduct it, the correct pronunciations, the interesting words, and anything that you might do to massacre the English language as well. I will have to call to your attention. It's also part of my job to have the word of the day. And since our theme tonight was It's Never Too Late, it occurred to me that 100 years ago when I was in elementary school, they never talked about your being late. They talked about your being tardy. So here's the word of the day, tardy. It means late. or after an anticipated time. So hopefully nobody will be tardy in evaluating or doing the other things that they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. We will do our best to avoid a massacre tonight of the English language. Finally, I'd like to introduce our awe counter, Jacob Town. Jacob, tell us what you'll be doing.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. My role is to pick up, as Pat Whitfield once said so eloquently, the verbal hiccups of the English language. I loved that turn of phrase, and I will use it till the end of my days. So what I am looking for, and I just used one, is a word that leads into a sentence that you're using as a crutch. And, so, and so I will be listening for those verbal hiccups and keeping track of how we communicate in terms of our group. And at the end, I will be giving all of those evaluations to you at the end so we can try to do better than what I'm doing right now. Thank you so much, Madam Evaluator.
Jacob, that was very, very smooth the way you worked in those examples. Kudos to you. Now I would like to turn it back to our Toastmaster, Christina Stepper.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. To ensure that we are not tardy by the end of our meeting, I would like now to introduce our speaker of the evening. The Understanding Your Communication Style project, a requirement for level 2 in all 11 tests, is a good one. The assignment is to determine your dominant communication style and learn how and when to use it. However, Lloyd Smith has done that project 6 times for 6 different paths, and he's ridden that horse just about as far as it can take him. Tonight, he'll be doing the project for his newest path, Motivational Strategies, but he'll be customizing it. Instead of looking at the two-way process of communications from the sender's point of view, he'll be looking at it from the receiver's position. Please join me now in welcoming Lloyd Smith and styling and profiling.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As Christina just said, that project is a very good project, Understanding Your Communication Style. It involves a questionnaire that helps you determine which of the 4 or 5 styles they give is the dominant one in your case. The problem with it is, as she also pointed out, I've done it many times, and so I have to change it up a little bit tonight. The project starts off with a statement that is seemingly obvious, but it's also very profound. It says, communication is a two-way process for reaching mutual understanding through verbal, nonverbal, and written messages. Now that's self-evident, I would think. However, it's also very subtle. And it's a true thing which the project does not talk about. What I mean by that is that since it's a two-way process, it can fail from either as the transmitter or receiver perspective. But the project deals exclusively with the speaking styles of the transmitters, not the learning style of the receivers. That, plus having done the project 6 times previously, brought me to this consideration of the audience's style and the impact it can have on a speaker's planning and preparation. In other words, if your receivers are not ready to receive, it doesn't matter what you transmit, it won't go through. Now, luckily, there isn't any need to reinvent that wheel. And that's because of something called learning style theory. That's an element of the education world. It's been around since about the 1960s and became very popular in the schools, probably in the early 1990s or so. The idea is simple. It's that different students learn best when information is presented to them in a particular way that they're equipped to to accept. As I said, it became popular in the early 1990s, the subject of many, many workshops for school faculty, and lots of money spent on it too. Now, there are a lot of variations in learning theory with different numbers of learning styles. I was doing a little research today, and it appears that lists of 4, 7, or 12 learning styles are the most popular numbers. So those are probably good ones to play for the lotto. There's a lot of disagreement about the importance that learning style theory has in student learning. However, it's still very popular in the schools today, and it has an obvious common sense appeal to it. All of the various lists can be boiled down to 4 basic styles, in my opinion: visual learning, auditory learning, reading and writing learning, and kinesthetic learning. Here's an overview of those 4 basic learning styles and the impacts they have on what speakers need to do to be most effective. First of all is visual learning. Visual learners, as probably is obvious, are better able to retain information when it's presented to them in a graphic form, such as charts, graphs, diagrams, symbols, pictures, whatever. Visual learners thrive on clear pictures of how information is arranged in a hierarchy. In other words, good or well-organized graphic information is critically important. No matter what the organizational scheme is, it has to be organized. And what I'm saying is it's not a decoration. The graphics are actually the point of the information or lesson or whatever you want to call it. Now, in terms of a speaker's responsibilities, if you're dealing with a lot of visual learners, things like whiteboards, smart boards, projectors, that sort of thing are very important aids for visual learners. The graphics, though, have to be very clear, and there should be supplemental handouts that detail what the information was so that they can look at it later after the presentation. Auditory learning is a little bit different. As the name implies, auditory learners prefer listening to information that's presented to them vocally. They work well in group settings where vocal collaboration is possible. Apparently, the people in the group reinforce one another's learning as they're going along. Now, if you're giving a lecture as your presentation, you have to be sure that you're addressing your auditory learners directly, speaking to them directly to get them involved in what amounts to a conversation. In other words, they don't want to just sit there and passively watch a show. They need to be part of it. Ask them follow-up questions while giving them the time they need to respond. That always works. Group discussions and question and answer sessions work really well to engage auditory learners. Reading and writing learners are trickier, not so much connected to the speaking thing, I think. They succeed with written information on worksheets, presentations, and other text-heavy resources. They usually take notes a lot and perform strongly when they can reference written text. Now, reading and writing learners, since they take lots of notes, they prefer the written word. And reading and writing learners are drawn to textbooks, articles, journals, and anything that's text heavy. In a speech, supplying them with references to supplemental materials that they can look up later on helps keep them engaged in the speech. Finally, the 4th group, kinesthetic learners. Kinesthetic learners are hands-on. They thrive best when they're engaging all their senses. They tend to work well in small group projects, and breakout sessions are very effective when you're dealing with a crowd that has kinesthetic learners in it. Since they're tactile, meaning they prefer to work things out, they have a difficult time sitting still for long periods of time, and they might need frequent breaks during a speech in order to keep them engaged. It's not always possible to get them on their feet and keep them moving, but if it is possible, that's not a bad idea with kinesthetic learners. Now, it's best to employ as many of these techniques as possible, which sounds impossible. But in reality, it's easy to find experts at doing this. Just visit any elementary school and find a teacher who's regarded as a good one, and you will see that 6 or 8 hours a day, every single day. Those people are the experts on learning theory. So what does this mean? It means that you have to present your speeches in a form that the audience can take in. What I've just done is obviously a lecture. One element of learning theory is that lectures don't work as a way to present speeches. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lloyd. Very interesting speech. I appreciated that you twisted the assignment so that we could hear a different perspective on it. Madam Timer, could we have a minute on the clock, please, for people to share their thoughts in the chat box with Lloyd? Thank you, Madam Timer. Please wrap up your comments. It is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's table topics master, Mr. Eric Stepper.
Thank you, Toastmaster. Remember, the word of the day is tardy. My role here as the table topics master is to proctor the part of the program where we get to practice our extemporaneous speaking on our feet. What we want to do is we want to be comfortable in the silence as we gather our thoughts to try and give a succinct answer to the question that is posed by the table topics master. We can answer the question, we can answer a previous question, we can make something up, or we can pass. This is the time when we get to practice that. Remember, the theme is it's never too late. What do you long to do? Maybe you haven't had the time or the money. What do you long to do, Brian?
Good evening, Toastmasters. What I long to do, and am in the incipient planning stages of it, is to travel to some other areas in the world that are affordable to live. I've heard some areas in Portugal, Mexico, Southeast Asia have affordability for us. I, like half the population, participated in the involuntary asset reallocation program, i.e. divorce, and need to reset how I'm going to spend my retirement years. I just joined International Living and ordered a book on Mexico and Portugal to start my research. I have a spreadsheet started on cost of living for renting and healthcare, etc. Be glad to share it if anybody is interested. That's my current planning. However, it will take a hiatus for 2 months, as this will be my last Toastmasters meeting probably for 2 months, because tax season starts February 7th for me, and Vicky probably as well. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Excellent answer. And no, we didn't work that out beforehand. What is something you'd like to change about yourself? It's not too late. What is something you would like to change about yourself? Or
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. What is something that I would like to change about myself? I wish, and perhaps this is the thing I would like to change about myself. I would like to tell you there is nothing that I would change about myself. That I love everything about myself. I love living in my RV. Kathy knows that, what I mean. I love my job. I do love my job. And I love what it stands for. But there's always something that needs improving. There's always something that we can always improve on. This weekend was an example of that. I recently bought a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and I decided to join a meetup with a bunch of experienced 4x4 drivers. I didn't know anything. I didn't have the right tools. I got a flat. I got lost. It was a very humbling moment for me. But I did have fun, and I'm glad I went. So something that I would like to change about myself, that I was more knowledgeable in just about everything. Best I can give you. Thank you, Eric.
I'm glad that we were here for this confessional. You get that out. It's never too late to go out and get that feeling back. It's never too late to go out and get that feeling back. What is a feeling you'd like to get back, Rob?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Table Topics Master. It's an interesting question. However, I would really like to stress that it's never too late for a lot of things. However, it may be too late for some other things. As many of you know, I am a high school football official. I didn't start doing that until I was 55 years old. I also decided when I was 40 that it was time to go back to school. So I went back to school and got my law degree. I went to law school for 4.5 years at night, working full time, and then couldn't pass the bar. But you know what? That's okay. It looks good. That sheepskin looks good on my wall, and it's helped me in my regular work. I've always been really positive about that notion that it's never too late, but I've realized recently that there may be some things that it's too late for. And I'd like to share those with you. One would be, at my advanced age, going to a bank and asking for a 30-year mortgage. I can see the banker rolling on the floor, looking at my application and saying, no, we're not going to approve that. Another thing that I probably shouldn't do at my age is have an aggressive stance in my stock portfolio. I should not be jeopardizing my $1,000 stock portfolio in some risky stocks, and I'm sure you would agree. Lastly, I think you would agree that it's probably not a good idea to start a family. If I had a child today, what would he call me when he graduated from high school? Gramps Dad? Hey, Junior, where's your Gramps Dad? Oh, I don't know. He's always tardy. He's probably not going to make it to the game. I always want to believe that it's never too late. I've come to realize that maybe it's too late for a few things. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
This group is crazy. You guys are nuts. What is, it's not too late. What is something you probably should give up? What is something you should probably give up? Kathy?
I'm going to be tardy here while I get standing up. Hang on. Get things out of the way.
Kathy Simons, not you,
Oh,
Kathleen.
beg your pardon.
You know, they always call on the guest, Kathleen. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master and members of, who are you guys? Oh, of Ellensburg, of Wenatchee. The question is, what should I give up? I believe, is that correct, Eric?
You probably need to give up, yes.
All right, what I really need to give up is control of other people's life. I have things in my life that I feel is the right thing to do. And I always look at not always look, but I look at others and I think, man, if you were to just do this, your life would be so much better. Or try this and you would be successful. However, what happens is everyone lives their life to what they think is the best way. And the only person that can judge that is yourself. So if I look at someone else and I say, that's not right. Well, that's not right on my part. I need to stay in my own lane and take care of myself, because that's the only person that I personally can change if I want to do that. So what I've learned is I want to give up controlling maybe my kids, how maybe sometimes what they do. Definitely I have a spouse. There's some things that I would like him to do a little differently, but you're happier. And so are the people that you live with. If you stay in your own lane, let them live their life. And I want to be mindful of that every day as I go through life. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. It's never too late to have a grand adventure in life. It's never too late to have a grand adventure. What would that be for you, Steve?
Every day is a grand adventure for me. I just posted on Facebook a picture of my shin. I was up on my exercise bicycle and I jumped out of the saddle to attack in the program that I was following to push myself to higher limits, and my foot came out of the little cleat, the shoes on higher end cycling, both in the house and outside. We have special shoes that clip your foot into the pedal to deliver more consistent power to the pedals. I came out of the pedal and whacked my shin a good one, and it started bleeding. So I shared that on Facebook with the caption, "Who couldn't hurt themselves on a stationary bike?" Or draw blood, I guess is what I said. Each and every day, people are wondering, what's he gonna post next that equates to an event that draws blood? I went water skiing years ago and came out of the water bleeding. Every day is an adventure for me. I just like to live large right where I am and regale everyone around me with my antics. Life is good, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Excellent. We are running well on time. Everybody's had a chance to talk. Kathleen, would you like one? Okay, I will let you pick a previous one, or I will give you a new one.
Do you have another one?
I do.
Well, why don't you go ahead, because you know my memory.
Well, that denotes a lot of trust too. So
I have a lot of trust in you.
Probably too late for me to be a ballerina. Is there anything that it's too late for you to be, Kathleen?
Thank you for that question. I'm not sure it's too late for you to be a ballerina. Eric, I think you're drawing the line too early. It depends on how well you would like to dance. Rob already answered this question with a list of very interesting things that it's probably too late for. I have not gotten there quite yet, even though I got my Medicare card just a month ago, to the point where I'm thinking that it's too late for anything. I still think I'm going to live forever. I still think there's plenty of time to do everything that I want to do. I don't know if that will change someday. It may or it may not. I'm going to enjoy fooling myself in the meantime. I have a printer going off in the background. Sorry about that. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Table Topics.
Turned around, looked like you thought it might be a burglar coming in.
It was an intruder.
We are good on time, and I didn't realize that I was the pipeline for Kathleen's jokes. So I've got a long one, so I'll turn it back over to Toastmaster now, so I have time for the joke. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. At this point, I would like to echo our Table Topics Master. Thank everyone for participating this evening. Those were great answers. Always fun to hear the spontaneous reactions to questions from our Table Topics Master. At this point, I would like to turn the meeting back to our General Evaluator, Kathleen McNulty. Kathleen?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I would like to start by reintroducing Vicki Chatterton so she can give her evaluation of Lloyd's fine speech. Vicki.
Thank you so much. Lloyd, I appreciate you giving this speech and having done it so many times, putting a twist on it, because it shows all of us Toastmasters that even if we're given a project, we can turn it into something that really helps and benefits the club as a whole. And I like that you made a twist on this communication style as to how we interpret it as the listener or the receiver of the message. And you went through and told us a little bit about learning style theory.
We may have lost Vicki. I'm sure it's temporary.
Vicki, we lost you.
What
if
it
you can hear us.
was when it became partners, the visual, audio, written in a reading, and the kinesthetic.
Vicki,
Yeah.
we lost you for part of that.
Oh, sorry. What part did you lose?
You were talking pretty much towards the beginning.
It
Towards
was
the
right
beginning?
after the
Okay.
word "the."
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try this again. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll start over. And so Lloyd, I appreciate you taking this project and making it so that we all could learn from it, and that you explained to us that there is a learning style theory when it was popular and the different types. And you said that there were 4, 7, and 12 different types, but then you went into the 4 different ones and broke it up and then gave us tips as to how we could use these learning styles or presenter styles and work it into when we are presenting. What I would like to have seen maybe you challenge yourself with is employing all of those styles into the presentation, where it would challenge yourself to use visuals on Zoom. Some people don't like to have to share the screen and show the charts. But in this new era of having to present on Zoom, I think we should all practice it. And also perhaps challenge your audience as to figuring out what their learning style was for this presentation, what they were getting out of it, and what if it really meshed with what their traditional learning style is. I know that mine is kinesthetic and I like to watch and try. If I'm watching something on YouTube and doing it at the same time, I can get it type of thing. So just explore those different types with your audience and play with them, especially the auditory where they just said they like to have a discussion. Maybe put that out there for this type of project. Let's see what else that I have. And I just think, again, to challenge yourself with the technology. We're going to be on Zoom for a while. And I would like to see you start playing with the sharing your screen and so forth. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Vicki. It's always discouraging to hear that we might be on Zoom for a while, but I certainly understand it. And I'm glad we can make use of the technology. That's great if we can do more sharing. I like that a lot. Let's move on to our timers report. Fabiola.
Thank you. This evening, we were all very well within our time spans. Lloyd, his presentation was 7 minutes and 18 seconds. For table topics, we had Rob at 2.46, Steve at 1.5, Kathleen at 1.10, Barbara at 1.43, Brian at 1.17, and Kathy at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Vicky's evaluation report was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, Fabiola. Now our grammarians report. This is your last chance to use the word of the day. Anyone? Okay. Pat, tell us how we did.
Well, there were some wonderful uses of language. I'll start with the main speaker. Lloyd talked about the transmitter or receiver perspective when he was talking about styles. You could visually see that, you know, you can see the message coming in from one source and going to another source. He talked about all those really comprehensive learning styles is like playing lotto. That was kind of fun. When he talked about the visual approach, he said, the visual approach is not a decoration. I really liked that. I liked that. That's a different way of thinking about it. When he talked about the auditory, he talked about, oh dear, I can't read my handwriting here. I don't know what I said. But the thing I love best as somebody whose roots were in elementary education is that elementary teachers are the experts on learning theory. Yay, I just love that. Other people who use some interesting phrases. Christina talked about having ridden that horse, which I thought was kind of an interesting phrase. Steve talked about regaling everyone around him. Now, regaling is not a word we hear very often. It's nice to hear that being used. Kathy talked about staying in my own lane. Again, another metaphor you could visually see exactly how that was. Rob talked about having an aggressive stance in my stock portfolio. Somehow I find it hard to put together aggressive and stocks. So that really captured my imagination. As for the word of the day, the people who used it, and each of them used it just once, Christina, Eric, Kathy, and Rob. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. Jacob, your turn. Tell us about our transgressions.
Thank you so much, madam. I just did one. So we had quite an interesting array of word usage, one of which was not on my list, but I noted that every single person at least once used this word, I believe. It was the word however, was very heavily used today. And I thought it was quite interesting because it wasn't necessarily a crutch word. It was just a very repetitive word that I heard frequently today. Other than that, Rob, you had one and. Christina, you had one repetition. Eric, you were clean. Lloyd, you had two us, two and so's, several repetitions, and one odd hesitation where you fumbled your words a little bit. Steve, you were clean. Kathleen, you had one repetition. I had two ums, an ah, an and so, and a repetition. Pat, you had one small repetition. Kathy, you had an and an and. Barbara, you had two ands and a but and two repetitions. Brian, you were clean. Fabiola, you had three ums. And Vicky, it was kind of hard because of your disruptive, the disrupt in the camera, but you had five ands and two uhs. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the supportive team that helped me tonight. I'm going to take just a minute to evaluate the meeting as a whole. I have many good things to say. We started on time. We introduced our guest. We, as Kathy said, we stayed in our lanes. We got our assignments and we stayed in our lanes. Did a good job on that. My one disappointment was the reference to tax season, Brian. Really, I had kind of forgotten about that coming up so soon. That was a little bit disappointing. Another thing I thought that we did really well, thank you, Eric, is your questions for table topics were concise and you didn't let on who you were going to until the end, which is good. It makes us all keep thinking about what our answer might be. I really appreciated that. They were concise questions, but they were broad enough that people could go different places with them. I thought you did a really good job with that. I loved the timer tool. Where's Fabiola on my screen? There she is. I thought that was very clever. I enjoyed that. We got a little bit off track during table topics, and I think it was mostly my fault, misunderstanding who was called, and then my son decided to print something and come in and get it. That happens when you're working from home on Zoom. We'll all have to get better at just riding through those interruptions. That is what I have for tonight, and I'm going to turn it back to Rob.
I think it comes back to me.
Okay, that makes sense, but Rob's there with his arms wide open. I thought he was ready to catch it. Thank you, Barbara. Madam President, back to you.
Problem. And it was a great meeting overall. And I just want to give a shout out to Kathy coming, and I hope you can join us again tonight. But first of all, Lloyd or Rob, do we have any announcements this evening?
Well, I just had one comment. Jacob mentioned that the word however was kind of a theme tonight. I think that fart was kind of a theme tonight. We had Kathy thought she may have had a brain fart. We had a Zoom fart, and I had an agenda fart. I apologized because the agenda was not correct. That's why, Kathleen, you thought you were turning the meeting back over to me. I'm not suggesting we ever use that as a theme for a Toastmasters meeting, but it was obviously prevalent throughout tonight. That's all I've got to say.
Well,
Thank
Rob,
you.
on your topic, fortunately, I was muted.
I just got that. Sorry. Okay, we have 10 minutes for Eric and his joke, and he's going to close out the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Niels Bohr is a famous physicist, Nobel Prize physicist. And after he retired, his alma mater asked him to go on a lecture tour across the country, talking about physics and having a Q&A after the lecture. And he said, no way, I am almost 80. I'm not going to go do that. And they said, well, we're going to give you a town car and a driver. He said, okay, I'm in. Gets in the town car and the driver, and away they go. After about 10 lectures, he gets more familiar with the driver and he climbs in the front seat, and they're becoming good friends. After about 30 of these lectures, he says, you know, I am bored to death. I'm sure you're bored to death too, hearing these lectures every time and the same questions and answers. Let's change it up. I'll go in as your driver and you go in as me. They're going to know my name and but they don't know what I look like. And he says, I'm in. They go to the next lecture and they do a couple of lectures like that. And at the third one, and a lady in the front row asks a question he hadn't heard before. He starts sweating, he starts to panic. And he says to the lady, ma'am, that question is so easy, I think even my driver can answer that. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. And I hope everyone has a great evening.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Good night.
Right.
Night, everyone.
Night, everybody.